Ready Check Radio.
What's up, Internet? Yes, you got here just in time, cannon fodder. It is time once again for the Relic Grind, Ready Check Radio's Final Fantasy XIV / Square Enix podcast. And this time we've probably got a bit more on the Square Enix side than we got on the Final Fantasy XIV side. You ever do show notes, put the show notes together? Got a nice show brewing? Give the guys 2 days to take a look at it, make any additions that they want to talk about. Mm-hmm. And then have the entire thing upended 8 hours before the show goes live. Well, that's what happened today, and you know what? I couldn't be happier about it. It is Halloween, so I am rocking the white mage outfit, ready to go for this week's episode. It's Thursday, 7 p.m., so make sure you're joining us live when you can. Twitch.tv/ReadyCheckRadio. Obviously, you could just come over to ReadyCheckRadio.com, the URL right on your screen. If you're watching us or listening to us on Spotify, that's ReadyCheckRadio, RAIDEO.com. Come on by, hang out, check out the shows you might have missed, and be sure to follow us on Twitch so that you can check us out live when you have the time. I've got a couple gentlemen that are going to go through the news with me. First up, Mr. Chris Montoya. What's up, Tarkoth?
Greetings, programs. Woke up this morning and basically had to throw out everything I had researched the last 2 days, and we had 3 hours to get this all together. So I'm hyped. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, it's absolutely great stuff. Great stuff. I'm very happy to be going through it. Also joining us to do so, Mr. Adam Lane. What's up, Kronos?
Not much. I'm dressed as a disappointed NFL fan.
Your division's doing really well. I mean, really well.
but no, I woke up this morning too to the news, which was pretty exciting. Probably read through the thing about 4 or 5 times now. Rewatched the trailer, so I'm ready to go.
We rewatched the trailer. That literally the trailer portion of this has been available for a while.
I know, but when you read stuff, you might look at it differently.
Yeah, you might go back and look through things and maybe catch something with a different eye. I will say right off the bat that I did not really find anything that I didn't already suspect anyway, rewatching the trailer. But maybe you did. We'll get to that in a little bit here. So let's start with the big news. We're going to start with Final Fantasy XVI today. That's XVI, not XIV. For those of you that your Google autocompletes are just a nightmare for the last month and a half. That would be me. Not only did we get a little bit of a blog from Naoki Yoshida, producer on Final Fantasy XVI today. You can find that on the PlayStation blog website. But we actually got a website for Final Fantasy XVI itself, na.finalfantasyxvi.com here in the United States. Same everywhere else except obviously the NA prefix changes. And so Kronos, first off, they led the website itself with the trailer. I think what we should do first here is kind of walk through Yoshi P's blog, because I think coming back to the site and showing some of the things on screen there will make a little more sense in the context of what Yoshi P had to say. So we're going to read this in little parts, and then we're going to give the guys and myself chances to chime in on things. Just really starts off with an introduction and saying, hey, we're not going to really talk about much till 2021, but here's a website. We don't want to reveal a lot, but here's a site with a bunch of stuff. There's new information, artwork to introduce you to the world, which I think is exactly where we all wanted to start. And they had this to say. Yoshi P had this to say. Final Fantasy XVI's adventure takes place in a land called Valesthia, which is studded with colossal mountains of glittering crystal called mother crystals. These mother crystals have towered over the realms around them for generations, blessing them with aether. This blessing of the mother crystals has allowed these realms to thrive and their people to live in comfort. Countless wars have been fought over the mother crystals all around the land, leading to the rise of nations such as the Grand Duchy of Rosaria, the Holy Empire of Sambrique, and Kingdom of Wallode. Some of these, we're pronouncing for the first time, so forgive my lips freaking out on some of them. The Dalmekian Republic and the Iron Kingdom, each with their own culture and ideology. Ongoing skirmishes have forged an uneasy peace between these nations, but with the emergence of the ruinous blight, that fragile peace is starting to deteriorate. And I think we can stop right there, Kronos, because if you've been looking and waiting for a Final Fantasy return to the crystals, very high fantasy, even if the trailer wasn't enough to make you think that's where they were headed, now that's exactly where they're headed.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the trailer kind of gave it away in that respect. I mean, we kind of knew that we were going back to like the high-end fantasy kind of stuff and more away from more of the modern things that we're used to in the last few. Which I'm happy about. I think it's pretty awesome that they're finally going back to that.
Me too.
And just like being able to even see like the image of like what looks like a world map kind of makes me really excited. I mean, I don't know like how big we're actually going to get yet, which is really hard to say. But I'm hoping that all that's explorable, which would be really, really cool. And I already had Type 0 vibes pretty heavy before, and it's even more so
we
now.
talked about it on this show, particularly when some people were like, oh, we might get a more mature. It's like, but there have been super dark and mature Final Fantasies. Type 0. And this was giving us vibes just from the trailer, Kronos. And we talked about it on this show, that we were getting Type 0 vibes.
Yeah, I mean, even just with the crystals and the way everything's set up with the cities and everything and how they're kind of powered, or at least like seems to be that way.
Benefit from, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like less machines and things. Like Type 0 had a lot of that stuff going on. It doesn't seem like we're gonna have that here. But the icons and the dominance and stuff, which we'll probably talk about in a sec.
Yep.
Really seem to line up with that.
Yeah, Tarkoth, this kind of leads, right down the proverbial Final Fantasy garden path. Crystals doing great things, people fighting over crystals, something threatening the crystals, the fighting ensues. And I think that's a good thing.
A good thing? Question mark. I think we're seeing like a dark side. What's the other side of the coin to the crystals and what they can produce versus the destruction they can bring with all these icons. Uh, you got Phoenix, you got Shiva, Titan. They can cause some real damage and kill a lot of people. So this is going to be very interesting to see how they go with this story.
Yeah, I'm kind of happy about it. Of course, we have the Blight too, which we don't know what exactly is going on there. Go ahead.
I got a Dragon Age Origins kind of vibe with that.
Yeah, I could see that. To your point though about these crystals and the power and stuff and the icons, I think we got a little bit of a taste of that, and we're going to talk about that in just a little bit here, that there are some nations, Kronos, that treat these powers quite differently. Some being revered and some being turned into, basically warriors. Anyway, we've got some specifics on characters now, too. Particularly one thing we had speculated. So far, by the way, reading through all this, like all of our speculation was dead on. Like almost all of it. We had one toss-up question, like Phoenix or Ifrit, who was we thought we leaned towards Phoenix, but a lot of our guesses, Kronos and Tark, were actually pretty spot on in here. So 3 characters that we know so far. We know our main protagonist. His name is Clive Rosefield or Rossfield. There's only one S, so I'm going to go with Rosefield. Main protagonist of the game, firstborn son of the Archduke of Rosaria, Clive is a shield who protects his younger brother Joshua, who is the dominant of the Phoenix. That was like the toss-up one we had, but we were all leaning towards Phoenix. Joshua bestowed the blessing of the Phoenix upon him, giving Clive the ability to wield a part of the icon's fire. However, as the story unfolds, he is swept up into a great tragedy. Also, something we talked about, Kronos, with the trailer and seeing like Phoenix wings on an attack. That does seem to be exactly what's going on here. And it's confirmed that the young knight at the beginning of the trailer and the tattooed man at the end of the trailer, they are both Clive. So we were right on that front where it looks like either through flashback or through actually progressing with this character, we are going to age from a younger to an older protagonist.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of those are pretty easy guesses, right? I
Yep,
think a
so
lot of people
far,
came to
yeah,
that.
nothing mysterious. You had to, I would say for some of the ones we made about like using the icon's power, you really did have to stop the tape and look
Yeah.
a little bit. But yeah, for most of these huge story beats, pretty easy. We weren't the only ones that made those predictions.
Right. I think the biggest thing for me is it's confirmed that this is his brother now.
Yes.
We didn't
Yeah.
really know that for sure. A lot of people kind of guessed that too, but we didn't really know. And now that like, I guess the whole thing is a lot of people thought he was going to be the dominant, but it ends up being like his younger brother, and now he's like kind of sworn to protect him, which is probably more than likely going to lead to the tragedy, right? I mean, we
Yeah, so that whole sentence right there. However, as the story unfolds, he is swept up into a great tragedy. So Joshua's getting murked, Tark.
Yep.
I mean, that's the only way you can really read that is poor little Joshua ain't long for this world.
Yep. I was like, yep, he's not making out of Act 1 of the game. He's just done. So don't get too attached. Hey.
We know a little bit about Joshua, too. Joshua is Clive's younger brother, also the Dominant of the Phoenix. Dominants are special beings who have the power of an icon residing within them. As a Dominant, Joshua transforms into the Phoenix, right? So this is different than we thought might be going, like a typical summoner story where Dominant summons, and they actually transform, or at least in Joshua's case, into the Phoenix. And fights to protect his nation. Even though he was born into royalty, Joshua treats everyone with kindness, but he does have his childlike side too, with a particular dislike of carrots. And that surprisingly comes up multiple times. I'm not exactly sure the significance of the carrots here, but this does come up a few different times in all of this new content, Tarkov.
Does he, have carrots and dislikes it so much he starts getting angry, and the dominant comes out, is like, why do you feed me carrots?
It is like, okay, fine, maybe it's just like a cute little character trait, Kronos, but I don't
think
know.
it
It's
is.
pointed out a few different times here.
Yeah, it's weird, but I'm pretty sure it's just like one of those character trait things. I don't know why they want to push that point home so bad, but it seems like they do.
Ninja Panda saying maybe he gets kidnapped or sacrificed. Well, sacrifice would still go in line with, killed. I don't think kidnapped. I don't think you refer to kidnapped as a tragedy unless it ends tragically.
Well, so we have to
Tragic.
assume, because it's Yoshi P, right, that there's got to be some misleading things here, right? It can't all be obvious. It cannot be. So is there any chance that like the kid is not good? Is that possible?
Oh, so you're saying like maybe he
start?
turns traitor type deal.
Or maybe
Rather-
like when he transforms, he just can't control something, and maybe he's forced to fight his brother or something. I mean, there could be. I don't know. There's also the girl that you haven't gone over yet.
Yeah, we haven't gotten
We
to
don't-
Jill yet.
and we
And
barely
not
see her
Jill
in the trailer.
Valentine. It's a different Jill. It's a different Jill.
Yeah, and we barely see her
Sure.
in the trailer at all. Like she makes like a couple appearances, and that's it. They
and
don't
they're
even
really
mention her by name.
sidebar appearances. We don't actually like see her doing anything, much of anything. So let's bring Jill in, and then we'll kind of finish off the characters here. The two brothers find a confidant in Jill Warwick, who was raised alongside them. At an early age, Jill was taken from her home in the Northern Territories, a nation that swore loyalty to the Grand Duchy of Rosaria, to become a ward of the duchy, securing peace between the two realms. She spends her childhood years with Clive and Joshua as a member of the Rossfield household. So not a whole lot on the Jill front, Kronos, at all here, besides, she was relocated, but it's all good.
Yeah, I think there's got to be more to her.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's got to be like she's going to be a big deal, and I feel like they're leaving a lot of things.
Yeah,
out
I feel like
on purpose.
she's going to be a big deal, Tark, because of the fact of how badly she's being undersold here. This just feels like, oh, yeah, that girl you saw in the trailer, here's her name, don't worry about her. Because we're going to have to worry about her at some point.
They're just pulling from everything. This has Game of Thrones vibes where, they take an award to make some peace with another country. But they're really just keeping her low. She's going to have a major role in the story, and I'm glad that it's not just all male cast. I'm glad that there's a major female person in this game, so she's going to be a major player.
I have a question actually for you. Do you think that the characters that they've shown now, right? We've seen these 3 characters. Do you think that this kind of confirms that we just have the one guy playable?
Yeah, I thought the same thing when I was looking through the website, that I think if there was more of a party at play, even if it was Final Fantasy 15-ish party rather than, full FF party, I think we would have seen a little more allusion to that, if not directly pointing to that, because I'm pretty sure Yoshi P knows that was like one of the number one questions, and there's really no downside to revealing that.
Right.
If they're, just quell that rumor. Yeah, you're going to have parties. The fact that it's not mentioned yet, even though we do know 3, what we assume are going to be major players in the story, I think, we're probably going to have our first, I'm 15, set that aside, but our first single character Final Fantasy mainline series here. What do you think, Tark?
I don't want it. I can kind of understand it, and they can really hone in on one person and really develop them, and then give everyone kind of ancillary subject points. And God, I'm losing my words here. I want a team. I like having a team, even if it's bad, like Final Fantasy 15. We saw what they can do with a team in an action setting with 7 Remake. Can we have that?
Right, but I think you also take a look at, and Q says in chat, why not both? I mean, yeah, certainly maybe they could do it's mostly single player, but at these particular points, you have people that fight with you, and you have, a modicum of control over them and things like that to do certain things. I think there was a little bit of a danger here, Kronos, where, yes, you had the option of doing something like Final Fantasy VII Remake or even something like Final Fantasy XV, but you have a very different team working on this game that they're just not a team known for recycling the same ideas when it comes to systems, when it comes to core systems. Yoshi P is not really known for that. He had to use some systems because they couldn't blow up the entire game, but I just don't see Yoshi P sitting there saying, yeah, let's just use the battle system from another Final Fantasy because it was really successful when it came out 6 months ago. I could see him looking at it objectively from the outside, being the fan that he is too, by the way, an important note of how much of a fan of the franchise he was before he ever worked on it, and saying, you know what? There's not been a Final Fantasy like this, except arguably maybe you would count 15 in this vein since the party was, ancillary doing their own thing. This is where the series needs to go. And while Tark, I'm with you. I like party-based combat. Yeah, hell, I'd like if we got another mainline that was turn-based combat. But I just don't think Final Fantasy has always been a franchise, even if it's not ahead of the curve, it's always moving with the curve. And trying to bring things like the summons with them so that there's those common threads, but it is moving along with the games of the times. And honestly, turn-based combat just ain't it anymore. As much as I would love it to be, and I'm sure they'll do things with it, I just don't know if we'll see a mainline series do that anymore, Kronos.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard this from people. Like, people say that Final Fantasy is this thing where, you just slap a title on it or whatever. But isn't that like what it's always been, right? Like, it's always been like the themes that carry forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I think they're still doing that, right? We this is still like you can't watch that trailer and not know what that is.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, I'm with you guys though. I would love to have a party. I'm probably gonna miss that, and that's gonna probably be a point they're gonna have to address at some point because there's no way no one asks them that question.
Yeah, and Prism in chat is bringing up a good point. The party adds diversity, like combat diversity. I think they're probably leaning more towards the icon abilities that Clive receives to be the diversity point in combat, to encourage exploration and experimentation in the combat system rather than the combination of, let's do this with 4 red mages, let's do this with 4 black mages, let's see what this all looks like. I think they're kind of pushing more towards that. I'd like to see party stuff. There isn't anything I've seen now that or read now. The trailer had me kind of, this is probably single protagonist. Now I'm almost 100% convinced that it's single protagonist.
Same.
Tarkov, you're kind of on the fence still.
I'm on the fence, but I'm leaning towards this single protagonist. With that point brought up of different abilities bestowed from the dominants. I mean, we haven't seen any of the game systems. There could be whole skill trees with Shiva dominant abilities, Phoenix dominant abilities, Titan dominant. So they could really have your variety with those abilities if there's some sort of tree or progression with those dominants.
Yeah, and you can't escape the fact that the lead combat designer brought was from Devil May Cry.
Which is basically what DMC is, right? You get the different weapons,
exactly.
You get the new combos. I think it's going to be very akin to that. I agree.
Yep, Fantasy May Cry. Speaking of the icons and the dominants, we finish off Yoshi P's little blog post with, for those familiar with the Final Fantasy series, you may know icons as summons, and they are without a doubt the most destructive and lethal creatures in Valisthea. Wielding powers that can level nations, icons reside within special beings called dominants. How dominants are treated depends on their realm, something I mentioned earlier. In some, they are revered as royalty, while in others, they are sent to the front lines as weapons of war. In the Awakening trailer, icons such as the Phoenix, Titan, Shiva, and Ifrit make an appearance. As for questions about how many other icons there are in Valisthea, who they are, and what will happen when they come to blows, well, you'll just have to wait for a future reveal to find out. I hope you get the chance to visit the newly launched Final Fantasy XVI teaser website, as you'll find plenty more information and artwork there. Our next big announcement is in 2021. Please look forward to it, and please look forward to Final Fantasy XVI. I don't think, Kronos, there's anything there that really surprises us on this front, though.
No, not at all. There was one part of the blog. Did you know that he worked on Final Fantasy V? Because I was not aware.
In a very ancillary way, though, if I remember right. I didn't see that in the blog.
I think it's like he mentions it very briefly, and I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't even know that he's been there that long. I thought like 14 was like his first big thing. Or 11, I guess 11, then 14.
I think that was the director that was on 5.
I don't think that's Yoshi P.
Oh, okay, it was a different guy. I just misread that then.
If you're talking about, because on the website, at the bottom, they do put those 2 introduction letters for Naoki Yoshida and Hiroshi Takai that were posted back when we did get the Awakenings trailer. Both of those are reproduced on the website as well.
Oh,
and I think you're talking about Takai.
Got it. Yeah, I just misread that then. That makes sense.
I know why you did it. Now, I flipped over to look at it. Yeah, I know why you read it by column.
Yeah.
It is in here very weird. We'll show you when we get to it. I see what happened. So on that note, I think we should pop over and take a look at the website here. So we've got this amazing splash page, guys, with Clive and Ifrit and Phoenix and the duchy in the background. This just looks incredible.
Yeah, he looks sick.
He does.
The art looks good.
He does look very Dante.
He
does look very Dante.
Fantasy May Cry. Be prepared to be.
Of course, we have the Awakening trailer. We're not going to play that. We showed that in a previous episode in our incoming data pane before, and obviously you can see that on YouTube. But we are going to stop here at the world and take a look at.
Note.
Go ahead.
If you try to watch the video, you have to put in your date of birth. If you put in that you're under 18, you don't get to watch the video.
Well, that kind of makes sense. Or they wouldn't ask for your age, I don't think.
Well, I mean, does this maybe leading more credence to rated M?
I think that's basically confirmed, even though they haven't hard confirmed it yet.
Yeah,
I think the trailer alone, just the amount of blood in the trailer alone.
I mean, it's got the Peggy provisional title too, and granted, Heaven's Word also had the more mature Peggy provisional title before it ended up getting knocked down too. But yeah, I'm pretty sure this one, the splash of blood at 2 different points in the trailer, is probably what and made it a YouTube mature video. All right, so here we have the world. This is Valestia, land blessed in the light of the mother crystals. Really, I'm not going to read all of this to you because most of it is, I'm sure we'll point out differences along the way between the 3 of us here, but most of this text on the website in a lot of places is exactly what was in Yoshi P's blog. So they kind of copy-pasted in some of the areas. They do point out here, though, in the mother crystals, that you could use the Aether to conjure magic that let people live in comfort and plenty, and great powers have grown up around each mother crystal, so making those a little more descriptive of cities being centralized around these crystals. Again, we see the blight as well. Then we get the icons and their dominance, which we've just talked about. And then we get this world map showing us the realms of Valestia. And I think, Kronos, this is where the news starts to get pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this part was the part I probably read about 8 times just to kind of go through and kind of figure stuff out. Because a lot of these a lot of the stuff they're going to talk about as far as each region is pretty in depth, like a lot more in depth than I thought they'd go right now.
Yeah, it doesn't look like much. And I do think it's funny that there are redactions in it.
Yeah, they're trying to keep the dominance secret.
Yeah.
I have some pretty good guesses as to what both of those
yeah,
are.
we're going to
Yeah,
go into those because
agreed.
I do too. So we've got the Grand Duchy of Rosaria. Long ago, group of small independent provinces in western Valestia, found strength and unity and formed the Grand Duchy of Rosaria. After years of relative prosperity, the duchy now finds itself threatened by the spread of the blight, a threat that, left unchecked, would doubtless usher the realm to ruin. Rosaria draws its Aether from Drake's Breath, a mother crystal situated on a volcanic island off the coast. The dominant of the Phoenix, icon of fire, is enthroned, as Archduke when they come of age. So the duchy, one of them that treats their dominant like royalty. They're enthroned as the Archduke as soon as they reach age here. And I don't think that's surprising given what we saw of Joshua and Clive in the trailer. All right, I'm glad you gentlemen agree. Moving on.
I concur.
The Holy Empire of Sambrique. Sambrique is the largest theocratic force in Valestia. The empire's holy capital of Oriflame is built around Drake's head, the mother crystal that blesses the surrounding provinces with abundant Aether. The people happily take advantage of this, living in comfort and security under the watchful gaze of the Holy Emperor, whom they worship as the living incarnation of the one true deity. The dominant of Redacted serves as the Empire's champion, taking to the field in times of war to rout its enemies. Thoughts on this one, Kronos?
I think it's Alexander.
Yeah.
That's my guess. It's a pretty educated guess, right? Holy is mentioned about 5 or 6 times in there.
Well,
so
I'm not quite as sure as you seem to be on this one.
Okay.
I'm a little hesitant to get this one correct. Do you have a guess here, Tark?
I'm going Shiva, especially with the trailer. Rosario or maybe another group going after what we thought was the Empire, and going after Shiva's dominant. I'm going to lean on Shiva.
See, I don't know, and I'm going to show you why here. Let's go back to this footage. So we're going to end up talking about 6 empires here. We're on like number 2 and 3. We're going to talk about these in a second. But if you look at their sigils, you know, the Grand Duchy of Rosaria has very obviously got like a phoenix here in their banner sigil. And then I jump over to the Kingdom of Wallowed, claims the entirety of Ash, the eastern half of Valestia, as its dominion. Kingdom's control of the continent has oft been tested by the orcs and other beastmen who make their home there, but the current ruler of the realm, dominant of Redacted, has succeeded in quelling their rebellions. Using the power of the kingdom's mother crystal, Drake's Spine, this new king has built up a mighty army with which he now seeks to test the borders of his neighbors. And then you look at this sigil, and this is I could see an Odin in this, you know, when he's in Sleipnir form.
Odin,
or an Ixion, because we have seen Ixion without the very like unicorn stylized, you know, headpiece in Final Fantasies in the past. But with the color scheme, I kind of lean more towards an Odin / Sleipnir on this side here. I don't know. Am I nuts?
No, I think both of those are good points. It looks more like Ixion to me.
I think it
but
very
I think-
well could be, because
Yeah,
we
but when
have
I
seen
read
her.
it-
We have seen
Yeah.
Ixion without the unicorn, like, bladed big headpiece thing protruding forward. We've seen it protruding back instead, and it seems to be a very big headpiece protruding back here. So Ixion was my first thought, with possibly Odin Sleipnir right behind it.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. That's kind of where I'm at too.
I can see the Odin because you got the 6 hooves. But yeah, my initial thought is more element based, so I'm kind of thinking lightning.
So then you would be more in what?
Ixion.
An Ixion camp than an Odin camp?
Yes, put me down for Ixion.
So coming back then, I don't know what I see in the banner here. I see a couple different things, and I don't like that. I don't like that
Yeah.
I see a couple things here, Kronos. What do you see?
I mean, the woman's the first thing I see, right at
Yeah.
the top.
Mhm.
But there's nothing that says Alexander can't be female. But there's also like the dragons.
Yeah, these like double dragons down here at the bottom.
But the dragon seems like a theme across every nation as you read it, because like there's these drakes, these pieces of a drake, right? Which then also makes me think Bahamut. but
Yeah,
I'm
you
sure
got
we'll get to
Drake's
that later.
breath, Drake's spine. That's the name of Drake's head.
Yeah.
Those are the names of the actual mother crystals.
Yep.
Right. So I mean, they could do a whole lot. I mean, my gut, just with the element, is why I'm going Alexander more than anything. But yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point. Like that, the flags obviously matter. They wouldn't have them here, and like you said, like you can clearly see the Phoenix in one, and so we can definitely draw conclusions from those as well. So it's possible. It's
So
something else, and I don't know.
Are you then, Tark, kind of seeing the woman at the top as the Shiva representation? Is
Yeah.
that what you're doing?
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. Let's go Shiva. Hype.
I mean, well, here's the thing, though. We do know one of them has to be Shiva.
And she's
Yep.
actually not mentioned at
And
all.
she's not mentioned in any of these at all. In fact, 2 of these remaining 3, they don't even deal with dominance. Well, I mean, they do, but
right.
they don't deal with them in the best way. So let's finish off here. The Dalmekian Republic is made up of 5 states, from which the members of its ruling parliament are drawn. Its mother crystal, Drake's Fang, is half hidden in the heart of a mountain range. The Republic's control over it and its aether securing the obedience of the large part of southern Valestia. The dominant of Titan, icon of Earth, is installed as a special advisor to Parliament and has a significant say in its decision-making. So we got
As they should.
we got Phoenix, which we saw in the trailer. We got
Mhm.
Titan, which we saw in the trailer.
Yep.
We know that there's a war between that Shiva has a dominant and that people are hunting either to kill or to take that dominant. So assuming that dominant is allied with one of the 6 locations we see here, it has to be the Holy Empire. Because
Go
go ahead, Kronos, go ahead.
I was gonna say, but also it throws a wrench into it, right? Is we know Ifrit isn't like supposed to be there. Like there's somehow
Right.
more dominance.
That's why I
that
put the
exists than we
caveat
know.
of if that dominant is allied.
Right. So, I mean, it's a good chance that, and obviously we know the Shiva fight takes place in the future part of the story because he's already grown up at that point when they show that in the trailer.
Yeah.
So it's possible that by the time they get to that point, there's way more of these icons than there were previously. If that makes sense.
No, absolutely. Yeah, and that's why I made the important, I think, distinction that if they are the dominant for Shiva is actually allied with anybody, it would have to be the Holy Empire, or there's other city-states we don't know about yet, I guess being another potential possibility, Tarkov.
Or another possibility is, we don't know what kind of timeline we have going. Maybe they've captured the Shiva's dominant, and with them capturing it, they've snuffed out that other territory.
All possibilities. That's why I love this show. Finishing off, we got the Iron Kingdom, a small group of islands off the coast of Storm, the western half of Valestia's twin realms. Here, the crystalline orthodox, an extreme faith that worships crystals, reigns supreme. The Iron Kingdom controls Drake's breath, the mother crystal that sits at the heart of one of their islands, long a source of contention with neighboring Rosaria, isolated and aloof from the mainland nations. The Iron Blood speak their own language. Orthodox doctrine judges dominance to be unholy abominations, and any unlucky enough to be born on the islands are executed. I would assume that we could maybe safely assume that it is the Iron Kingdom we see in the trailer hunting down Shiva's dominant here, Kronos.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good guess.
It seems safe.
Obviously, yeah. I mean, based on what you're reading, they don't like them, right? So it's possible that they got to the point where they're just going to everybody else's like places and hunting them down.
So here's the question: is this our main protagonist or our main antagonist? I mean, Tarkoth, the ones we see in the trailer that maybe aren't the nicest, that keep referring to things as the Empire and things like that. Iron Kingdom certainly fits, I think.
It fits. Their disdain for the dominance and having to hunt them down, and maybe they just got an itch to, let's wipe them all out. Let's cleanse this and stop the reliance on these dominants and the mother crystals. But that's where the Ifrit really throws a wrench in things. Is it maybe a child from the Iron Kingdom that got snuck away when the mom found out, hey, you're a dominant, you have powers? Time and the
Throw her
story
into
will
hiding,
tell.
yeah.
Yeah.
The Shiva dominant starts in the Iron Kingdom and gets snuck out before she's
Maybe that too.
before she's unlucky enough to be born there and killed. And now the Iron Kingdom is on the prowl to hunt. It totally makes sense to me.
Or the Ifrit dominant as well.
True.
And we know the main characters with, like, if we're assuming that this is the same people, we know the main characters with them as well, right?
Yeah.
Because he's like there at the beginning. So.
Yep. The crystalline dominion sits at the heart of Valestia, built around the tallest of all the mother crystals, Drake's tail. Many bloody battles were fought for control of this small plot of land due to its strategic importance, till the warring realms finally agreed to an armistice. As part of the peace treaty, the islands around Drake's tail became an autonomous dominion led by a council of representatives from the surrounding nations, each realm enjoying equal claim to the mother crystal's blessing. No dominant makes their home here. So welcome back to Juno, I guess, if you played Final Fantasy XI. I mean, that seems exactly like what we've got going on here. The Grand Duchy of Juno in the middle of the world, represented by all the different factions and city-states. Also, for those to want to check it out, follow Ethis on Twitter if you're not familiar with Ethis's work. Ethis has started putting together lore stuff for Final Fantasy XVI and has started with placing these places on the map that you see here in the background image. Based on those descriptions, making very educated guesses on where most of these places will be. So before we leave the realms, gentlemen, I'll give you a final sum up of questions or things you spotted along the way for the 6 different realms that have been revealed so far. Tarkoth, I guess we'll go to you first, man.
Well, with the Crystalline Dominion, their banner has 4 different icons from the other banners. Rosaria is not on that. I'm thinking that maybe the first part of the game is, the execution of Joshua starts this grand tragedy, and Rosaria just gets obliterated.
Wait. Where are you not seeing Rosaria on there? Rosaria is right here.
No, in the Crystalline Dominions banner.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
Where that?
Yeah, it's like to the left. You can kind of see
to the left of the square. In the center of the Crystalline
I'm assuming
Dominion.
the holy one's in the top. Is at the top.
See, I was seeing that as the Iron Kingdom.
So
Rosaria's to the left. Holy Empire is north.
Iron Kingdom's the one that's not there.
Yeah, Iron Kingdoms isn't there, but that's because they don't. They're not fully fledged republic.
Maybe they're just upset that they're not part of the Dominion. That's why they start things off.
I'm gonna assume that the Dominion probably has something like to do with like protecting the icons, and they probably don't like that.
Yeah,
would be my guess.
Yeah. Anything else from you, Kronos, on this front?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything I wanted to talk about.
Tarkov?
So
Did we get you too?
Other than my error there, I'm good.
I was like, wait, what is he talking
I
about?
thought that was the
Did
Iron
I
King.
miss something?
I was like, oh, that's the Iron Kingdom.
Here at the bottom, by the way, of the homepage is the message from the developers. And yeah, if you read this, like, because it's there's no page, not a nice page break or a line or anything. Should put a line right here. Boop. So you probably read straight down this column and then straight down this column. So yeah, Yoshi P was not on 5.
okay.
Anyway,
I definitely just read it wrong. So
we've got another page here, and again, not a lot that we haven't already talked about here, so I'm not going to go through this in nearly as much detail because we basically just have the bios we were given for Jill, Joshua, and Clive in Yoshi P's blog, but I'll give you one more chance if you want to talk about anything specific to these cats. We'll start with Kronos this time.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like we got less information here than from like the city states and stuff.
Yeah.
So there's like less to go on, other than the fact that like they're related and they grew up together, and that he dislikes carrots. That's about it. So
he loves them. They do word something in Joshua's a little bit differently, with the inclusion of him lamenting that it was him that got these abilities, being frail and bookish, instead of his stronger, braver brother Clive. And then he quails at the sight of carrots on his dinner plate. So a little more specific there. He is holding like a little, it looks like a pup of some type there. In the picture, but it says, but carrots become the least of his concern when he too is swept up into the tragic events that change Clive's life forever. Josh, you're gone, buddy. I don't know in what way, but you're gone, pal. I just don't see Josh making it very long into this game. Yeah. And then Jill, whoop, yeah, look, oh yeah, sweet little girl. Yeah, we have 2 sentences. Jill's definitely got a bigger part to play in all this.
Mm-hmm.
All in all, great information. Go check it out. Great art, obviously, as I'm sure that doesn't shock anybody on this panel. But I was super excited to see this today. I still belong, maybe wrongly, to the camp that this is a lot further along than people might believe. And I still think that a 2022 launch date is what we'll be looking at here. Kronos, am I nuts, or are you still kind of in that camp as well?
yeah, I don't think you're nuts at all. I mean, they've obviously been working on this for 4 years probably or so. Is what I'd have to guess. And so I imagine they're further along. And I imagine the news we're gonna get early 2021 is probably gonna be pretty big. Like at least a new trailer, maybe like some actual like in-depth gameplay. And then if that lines up, your timeline's going to be pretty accurate, I think.
A new trailer that Kronos can use to put himself to bed every night. Because he's watched it like 900 times, Tarkov. I can't wait. You still thinking 2022?
I said before, late 2021 for holidays,
you were ahead
or
of us.
maybe early 2022. This, they're not going to put out a website this soon unless it's right there around the corner. So I'm sticking to my guns. The holiday 2021 or really early 2022.
All right. Well, there's your 16 news in a nutshell. Go check out the site. Go check out all the cool art. Go check out the map. And it's a bunch of more fun stuff for us to speculate. Let's move on to some Final Fantasy XIV. Not a whole lot to talk about. I've trimmed these a little bit as well here, so we're maybe not covering all of these now that we put Final Fantasy XVI in, since it broke this morning. Really small patch. I figure we'll just go through a couple of the points in it, mostly fixes, stuff like that, of course. But recruitment time for Castrum in Bozja has been extended from 1 minute to 6 minutes. And while I think that there needed to be an increase there, I think 16 might, or 6 minutes might be a little much there, Tark.
Yeah, I agree. It was definitely needed for the people that were in critical engagements and then maybe got a chance to go into a duel. If it popped at the wrong time, you're like, okay, you get to wait another hour plus. So a change was needed, but 6 minutes does seem a little much.
I see Kronos over there shaking his head too.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea was right. I think you hit it spot on. Like the people were going into critical engagements and then cash would pop and then they'd miss it. And I think the reason I guess they wanted it to be more rather so than less, so they kind of went overboard because they want the people to be able to finish their critical engagement before they go in. I mean, you're looking at prep time anyways going in there, so like the extra couple minutes isn't that big a deal, I don't think. But I mean, it probably didn't need to be 6 minutes. Probably
Yeah.
could have been like 4.
Yeah, 6 minutes. You got enough time to go make a cup of coffee. Come on back.
Yep. Make a sandwich.
We'll see.
Good time.
We'll see. We'll see if anybody complains about it. I'm sure the people getting in at 5 minutes and 50 seconds are going to think it's great. The people that were there with 1 minute and 5 seconds in probably aren't going to like this all that much. But 1 minute was definitely too small. So Kill It With Fire visual patterns got updated a little bit to the dead leaves damage area to improve colorblind support. That's always good. Description for Bosgen earrings. This is funny, by the way. I love this.
Yeah.
The description used to be increases experience earned by 30% when level 80 and below. And I remember, Kronos, you talking about these earrings on the show and what a great boon they could be.
Mhm.
The correct description, apparently, should have been increases experience earned by 10% when level 80 and below. The effect increases experience earned by 10% when 80 or below was activated in a hotfix performed on October 15th. So it was already fixed. You've only been getting 10% for a while, but you've been thinking you got 30%. They did make it known, but the text, I should say they made it known for people like us.
Right. Yeah, you had to kind of be plugged in, I guess.
Yeah, you have to be a little plugged in to have caught this one. Although I have to think that, like, if you're not plugged in to this extent to have seen this and know that it was happening, then you probably didn't notice the difference between 10 and 30% anyway.
Right.
Because bonus is bonus. So that's been fixed for you. The monster Feathered Rainbow in the skirmish Waste the Rainbow sometimes moved out of the battle area, making it impossible to complete. I've seen videos on this. Did it happen to any of you? It didn't happen to me, but I've seen videos of it.
Yeah, I haven't even seen it, so.
Oh, okay.
It didn't happen to me, but I was outside when it did happen. So you have the critical engagement, and then you're outside of it, but then the boss is outside of it too. So you're like, "Oh my god, what the hell? Do I have to do anything now?" So yeah, it was very interesting. And you can't really do anything except either wait the timeout or return and travel back to the beginning of the zone.
And this is where I'm sure those of you that are have fought this and had it happen are hoping I'll say it was fixed. It's not. It's still causing a little bit of an issue. They haven't fixed it, but they've patched it to have it happen less.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a really weird way of saying I don't think they're entirely sure what's causing it. I think they have suspicions on a couple causes and were able to address some of them, but they weren't able to squash this one entirely.
That's what I gather from that. They haven't really nailed down what's causing it, because if they can nail down what's causing it, then they can fish out that root problem, put instead of just a Band-Aid fix, an actual coded fix.
We also last week, this was early last week there, we didn't cover it on the show though, because we had a whole lot of other stuff to cover. So since we thought we had a few extra minutes on today's show, I wanted to put it in here. So we're just kind of to buzz through this one and get your takes on it. We had an interview on the actual Final Fantasy XIV website, one of their blog interviews. They're starting a new series of them with main scenario writer Banri Oda. I thought it was a nice interview. Go read it. I mean, it's not like horribly insightful and full of like spoilers and things, but I always like these behind the scenes, getting to know some of the people that aren't Yoshi P, or aren't the director of a particular game. And I thought this was a pretty cool interview, particularly when they did talk about Kronos, that he felt relieved they even got 5.3 out of the door. Not out of the door in a reasonable time frame, out of the door, just out the door, period. That it even made it out the door. There was a lot of relief from the team.
Yeah, I can imagine that, right? With like COVID hitting and everything moving to their like homes, and stuff, and everything's like a Zoom meeting at that point. I can understand that because I mean they put a lot of time and love into this game, and when you get that stress, it kind of makes it a little bit harder to do. So I'm happy for them, and I'm glad that like I think it came out all things considered pretty great.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
Good
Oda
content.
Oda mentions that too, Tarkoth, saying, just it's tremendously well received. Thank you so much, and everybody being patient and stuff. What I think is the best part of this interview is that Banri Oda basically fluked into this job. Like totally accidentally got into scenario writing first, and then in this particular job at Square Enix. So he tells this whole story about he was on a team that wrote strategy guides for arcade games, and they decided for one particular game they wanted to put like a 3-page short story of these characters in the arcade game at the end of the strategy guide. But all the contracts they had with writers and everything fell through, and now they have 3 blank pages at the end. So he was like, yeah, sure, how bad could it be? I'll write a short story. Sent it in. The makers of the arcade game were like, that's great, no problem, we approve it. And so they, fully fleshed it out, put it in there. That's how he started being a like scenario writer at all. Then
Just fell into it.
Right, just fell into it, and then goes to apply for Square Enix, where he thinks he's getting a job to probably just like write Japanese copy on a website. That's the writing job he thinks he's applying for. And as he gets the job, they're like, yeah, you could write scenarios, right? Because you're going to be making quests and things like that. He's just like, yeah, sure, I could do and just ends up.
He says that the job posting was just someone that can write in Japanese. It wasn't even like descriptive of what the job was actually going to be.
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, not a problem.
Yeah,
So then
he
they're
just
like,
thought he was
okay,
going to be doing copy for like Square Enix's main site, like just generic print copy. One of the
by
questions.
the way, give
ahead.
us a story for all these characters. Like, get on it.
Yeah, just write a scenario for these characters. He did bring up FanFest, though, and that was something that he was a little upset about, that not being able to do that, because he thought that was very, very cool. And I did want to ask your guys' kind of take on it. Like, obviously, the only real way to do a FanFest right now is digital, but, like, can you make that as exciting as being there? No. You're just not.
No.
You're not going to attain that level. But what can you do to make it? I don't know. I'll be honest here. I love BlizzCon. I get bored watching BlizzCon. Even when it's the panels. It's just, there's such a hype at being there, even if it's just sitting watching the panels, versus watching digital BlizzCon. It's not that I don't enjoy it and I don't like getting the information out of it, but if it's going to be solely, and they don't have to focus on that because they're focused on the event there, and the digital streaming is just a plus. But if you make these things where they're digital only, you've got to find more creative ways to engage the audience at that point to get hype for anything that isn't just new content information. And I honestly, I don't know how you do it. Any suggestions?
So I think this is probably going to end up just being like a really big live letter, right? It's probably what they're going to do. Like, they're going to have panels and such like that. I really hope that they do something in game, though. I think that would be a really cool way to do it, is that there's some kind of events in game only during that period of time that we can do, or something like that, something exclusive like that to make it feel fun. Great. Otherwise, yeah, it's just going to be a
so
big
you want them to
live.
break the servers and throw up 3,000 player queues. Fantastic.
I mean, it'll
Sure,
be
why
just
not?
like an X-Pack dropping, right? I mean, queues when the X-Packs drop aren't, I mean, they're not great, but they're not unworkable. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there is a lot of pressure on servers at that point if they do that.
I think there's a lot of pressure on them to do something FanFest-esque, Tark, but how do you do it without it just being, to Kronos' point, another live letter? It's something you already do.
Yeah, and I haven't experienced a FanFest myself. I was hoping that this year would be the first year. Unfortunately, COVID, ruined that. But I've tuned in for the previous panels and the live letters, and then that's all I do, and then I go on with my day. What they're gonna do to make it exciting, I think Chrono's right. Maybe you just tie it in with something happening in the game. Yeah, maybe you get high queues, but we see that when we get an expansion launch anyways. So I think that would be an exciting way to kind of cross promote that.
Fortnite concerts, I think, is the key here.
No. Nope.
No, don't. Dear God,
Don't.
don't do it.
Mm-mm.
Don't do it. I thought the picture in this interview, by the way, of like all the things fans send was super cute. Like for Valentine's
So
Day, just like
awesome.
boxes of chocolates and hearts and stuffed animals and things like that. And Oda does talk about getting a lot more of those through the COVID thing. But I thought particularly like poignant here was like they have staff, right, that we don't know. You know, people that work and develop a particular character, a few particular characters, assist on a scenario. And one of the points that Oda brought up here was like when people write letters to the character, not to like the staff or to whatever, but they like write a letter to Y'shtola and send it over. And while that may sound for some of us to be just ridiculous, right? Why are you writing a letter to somebody that doesn't exist?
To the
What's
best
actually happening on the other side of that letter is the coolest thing that I think I've ever read, where he says that those letters are given to the people that create those characters. And like the first times they ever get those types of letters, they're like usually moved to tears. I thought that was so cool that those letters are actually finding their way to Y'shtola, right? Or to Minfilia, or to whomever they're writing to. I thought that was really, really cool.
I love that the community really embraces not just the characters, but the developers and the people in the building themselves. It's a stark contrast to the big corporate, EA, where the most you get to see is their logo outside their building, or Take Two. People really are invested in Square and the people in that building. Having these interviews brings more light to those individuals in the building, and I really appreciate it. And seeing the picture of that whole table with all these candies and notes and letters, um, it shows us that they really appreciate what we do for them as well.
Dwarven decking was hilarious, Kronos.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. That dungeon in general is a pretty cool touch when you get there the first time, and you see like all the characters coming to help you out. And I actually did it like when he told that story. I didn't even really know because I don't know if you know this, but you could do that dungeon a bunch of times, and it's kind of different, like who shows up.
And what they say.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
I don't even think I've seen all the possibilities, to be honest myself. Um, but I've seen this one, which is pretty hilarious. Like the way he talks about how it got in there and how at first he didn't want to because I guess it was a character that he had created. He didn't want to show bias.
Yeah.
But it was
Yep.
pretty cool. I always like to see little nods like that. So it's pretty awesome that they talked about that.
Great interview. Check it out right over on the 14 website. Before we leave you today, I do want to ask you two gentlemen, do you guys play any Square Enix mobile games? I mean, I'm not huge on Let's Cover mobile games, but there's a ton of Halloween content going on in a bunch of them, like across all of them. So if you're an Amra Opnia fan or you're a Mobius fan or anything like that, there's probably a Halloween event going on. I'm not into any of them. I tried Amra Opnia. I tried Treasure Keepers or Record Keepers. And both I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm not in for the gotcha shit. I'm out. I'm out. So not me, not my cup of tea. What about you two?
Yeah, I've tried them, but I don't really stick them out that long. Record Keeper was probably the one I played the longest, maybe for like a few months. Something about mobile games, I can never like stay in there very long. It's hard for me.
I played Record Keeper and Opera Omnia, and both of those games, you get to a point where, all right, if you really want to stay kept up, break out your wallet, and that's where they just lost me. So I haven't really been into a mobile game, but Dragon Quest Tactics, hey.
Yeah, that's one.
go.
I'm kind of looking forward to this, actually. Dragon Quest Tact. I'm showing you guys the trailer down below if you're watching on YouTube. This is actually confirmed for a global launch. Android's having a pre-registration thing, and you can get early access. iOS does not. So if you want early access, you got to be on Android. I love Dragon Quest. I love tactics games. So I'm definitely in for checking this out. But if it becomes like another one of those, hey, gotcha, pool, 5-star Dragon Quest weapon, nope, it'll be deleted very, very quickly. But there's definitely enough here that I am absolutely 100% going to check it out. Kronos, can we get you to bite on it? Tark and I are
I'll probably
Yeah.
try it, honestly. Tactics games, doesn't really matter what they are. I usually will attempt them. That's a big like genre that I like that I feel like doesn't get enough love anymore.
Yeah.
And even though it's a mobile game, I'll probably still try it out.
On this kind of topic, do you guys want to see Dragon Quest X come west? The MMO's been in Japan for years now. Like, should it come west? Pull the Phantasy Star Online 2 and come over 8 years after it comes out?
I don't see why it didn't in the first place.
I don't think any of us. I don't think any of us would disagree there. But like, is now the time? Dragon Quest is on a little bit of a high with 11. Then we're getting the new edition of 11. Then it's coming to the Xbox in December for the first time in a long time. Like, it's kind of on a roll right now, particularly here in the West. I think like if you're going to bring Dragon Quest X to the West, they're really, besides when it launched, there really isn't a better time than now, but I still don't think we're going to see it.
Which would be a real shame. I hear the game's really good. I want to see it. Let's play it. Dragon Quest, it's good.
Kronos?
I think you bring up a good point about the PSO2 thing. That means I think that gives it a little bit of a chance.
Yeah.
But I do think they had to put a lot of work into doing that. And I don't know if that's something Square is going to do at this point. But I mean, I think there's maybe a little glimmer, but I highly doubt it that we get it. I feel like they'd be hyping it up if that was the case.
Makes me sad. Finally, on the Avengers front, I just keep putting it in the show notes just because it's fun at this point. The Kate Bishop delay that was pushed out of October on from the Avengers on our previous show is now sometime before the end of the calendar year. Which means Hawkeye, who was supposed to come just a few weeks after that, is probably pushed back to 2021 now. And then the unknown character that was after that we all pretty much know was going to be Black Panther. Who knows when the hell that's going to come. As of me putting the show notes together, its 24-hour peak players on Steam was just over 1,300, but it's the second biggest digital launch since Final Fantasy VII Remake. This game's fucking doomed. Like, there's just no other way to say it at this point. And Kronos, I know you love comic books, and this game you had hope for at one point, briefly. It is just doomed now.
Yeah, I don't see how they recover. I really don't. I don't think they could release any amount of characters in this game that's going to bring it back.
Remember, Kate was supposed to be just a few weeks after launch. With Hawkeye, just a few weeks after that. We should be looking now at Hawkeye coming.
So what does that mean for the Spider-Man, the exclusive? That's not out yet, right?
That's pushed way back.
You know the character that basically told Xbox and PC players you're buying an inferior version of the product? That one? Yeah. Who knows? Yeah. Oh, you're definitely getting a holiday price drop, Prism. You are 100% getting a Black Friday, Cyber Monday price drop with probably a bigger price drop as we close in on Christmas. If you thought Fallout 76 got cheap fast when Black Friday rolled around just a mere 3 or 4 weeks after launch, yeah, you're getting a price drop here.
$20.
Yeah, let's head over to Love It or Leave It, gentlemen. This is where we talk about a singular Square Enix related thing, and you tell us whether you love it or you leave it. And while on future segments we may be more specific with this particular topic, but that doesn't, just because we're talking about it as a broad scope topic today, doesn't mean we might not get more granular with it on a future episode. I want to ask, we talked about Dragon Quest Tact, we talked about Dragon Quest X. I want to know your feelings, love it or leave it, Tarkoth, on the Dragon Quest franchise, the entire thing itself. Has it ever held the allure for you? Is it up there with Final Fantasy for you? Is it just not on your radar? Love it or leave it, the entire franchise itself.
So I have a history with Dragon Quest. While Final Fantasy IV was the RPG that brought me in and got me hooked on RPGs, Dragon Quest I was the one that I first played. and I played it from beginning to end. And I played Dragon Quest II from beginning to end, and I thought that was a little bit better. But Final Fantasy IV is where my heart really jumped into RPGs in general. And at that point, Square and Enix were separate companies.
Yeah.
So I always felt like there was a rivalry. I was a young kid. I didn't know any better.
And
so
there was at that time. That's fair.
So, I felt, I got to stick with Final Fantasy, and I'm not going with, Dragon Quest. I'm not play Dragon Quest anymore. But when they merged together, I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll give it a try. And while Final Fantasy is maybe kept more of a serious tone, Dragon Quest, especially with the more recent 3D versions of the games, has become more of the fun and a little bit goofy. I hear Dragon Quest XI is maybe a little bit more mature, but I like that there's two different styles. And this is kind of a little announcement. With Ready Check Radio, I'm going to be streaming Dragon Quest XI for my first game.
Nice. That's coming up Saturday night here on the East Coast. Or Friday night, isn't it? Is it tomorrow night?
Saturday night, Sunday morning.
Saturday night into Sunday morning, and then you do Sunday night into Monday morning as well, too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that'll be coming up this Saturday evening, very late evening for us on the East Coast here. But again, putting all kinds of streamers on at different times with different games to kind of cater to all of you everywhere. Super late or super early, I guess, for our friends over in the UK. But that's fine. You could check out one of the other streams. So that's a love it then, I take it.
Love it.
All right. Kronos.
So I think we're going to get our first disagreement here.
Oh.
Yeah, so
he's about to throw the whole franchise out.
I grew up with it's definitely a leave it for me. I'll start there. I grew up with Final Fantasy as well, right? Final Fantasy were like my first one. I remember playing 4. 4 was like the first one I got to play. I was very young though.
Same.
And then 6 I would say was where I got hooked, and then 7 was where like I had reached the point of no return at that point. I remember going back and trying like the old Dragon Warriors and Dragon Quest, and it just never felt the same to me. And then I remember they tried to kind of bring it back and like a lot of the Akira Toriyama stuff. And I was really big into Dragon Ball at the time, so it kind of looked a lot like that. So I tried it again. And I don't know, it's just something always felt off. And then I distinctly remember, I think it was Dragon Quest 8 came out with the Final Fantasy XII demo. Yeah. I believe that's the case. And I remember buying that game for $50 with my hard-earned like money that I barely had just to play the demo. And then I don't even think I ever got halfway through that game. And a lot of people consider that the best one, right? Like, or like one of the better ones.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's up there.
And so I don't know. It's just always been in this weird place for me. I didn't even pick up the newest one. I know a lot of people really like it, and it doesn't. I'm not saying that the games are bad. They're just never been for me. And I've always just preferred the Final Fantasy and a lot of the tropes that go with that, as opposed to a lot of like the Dragon Quest stuff. Kind of where I'm at.
So I'll leave it. Wow.
Yeah.
Are we going to find a new host soon?
Chat, rip Kronos. I'm going to give love it. I love the Dragon Quest franchise. I always have. And 11, now I want to go play it because I didn't finish it. So I feel like as soon as I'm done uploading shit, I should go play it. I would stream it, but we're going to be carving pumpkins tonight. So for Halloween, my favorite holiday. Anyway. I absolutely love it. 11 to me is very, very good. It doesn't do anything like new or brand new exciting, but it does more of what Dragon Quest does, and it does it well. And I'm particularly going to love it because I have a feeling that is going to be Square Enix's staple turn-based game going forward. I don't think Final Fantasy, while we may dabble in a little bit of party stuff, I just don't see Final Fantasy releasing a mainline series that's turn-based anymore. I don't think we're headed down that path anymore. So I got to give Dragon Quest franchise a love it, and we can play them both. So 2 love it's, 1 leave it. Interesting. Now, normally we would have our streamer who will stream after today's show, immediately after, on the show so that they could talk to you and introduce what they're going to do and all that stuff, and you could hang tight for that. Today, not going to be a stream after the show. Unfortunately, our streamer had some weather that affected power here in the United States, so they will be joining us next Thursday for their premiere stream. But we've got all of our other streamers coming online, so make sure you're following here, twitch.tv/ReadyCheckRadio. If you head to ReadyCheckRadio.com, you can just get all of our socials in the upper right-hand corner. Follow everything, and please share as we really get started here. Today we had like small milestones, right? Celebrating the new channel, our first YouTube video that hit 100 views. That's awesome. Yay. Small milestones, but they're all good milestones. So check it all out. Follow it on Spotify, share with your friends and all that stuff. But until next week, until next Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern here on our Twitch channel, where can everybody find you, Kronos?
Yeah, you can find me on my Twitter, which is listed below. I've been streaming a fair amount the last week or so. So if you want to watch me play some like fighting games mainly,
Nice.
you can also follow me on twitch.tv/RVA Chronos is where I've been streaming. So it's been pretty fun.
Nice.
lately.
I've seen your Facebook messages. You're like, this is fun. I should do this more.
Yeah.
Tarkoth.
Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, all at Tarkoth Gaming, and Saturdays, Sunday nights, Radio Check Radio on Twitch, where again I'll be streaming Dragon Quest XI.
Yeah, as Jason points out, JRPGs during Japanese time. Perfect. Nice
Awesome.
hit. Nice hit there. I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me personally there at MagicMan1, MagicManN1 on Twitter. But more importantly, follow Ready Check Radio and spread the word. Help us get these podcasts viewed more. Until next week, stay safe, and we'll see you out on the servers.